Tell Me About It podcast, a City of Pinellas Park production. I'm your host today, Lana Beck. I have my co-host here, Dan Hubbard. He is the Assistant City Manager. We have special guest, Matt Dahm, owner and operator of Mastry's Brewing and Distillery Company. And we have Bart DeBold, our City Manager. And Dan, the money man, Katsianis. He is the administrator of our Office of Budget and Management. Today, in general, we're going to talk about some projects. Specifically, we're going to focus on Davis Commons. That is originally started out as our city center, formally named Davis Commons. We are going to also in-depth talk about Mastry's and them coming into the city of Pinellas Park, into the Park Station district.
How do you actually, Mastry's Brewing Company, incorporated? Is that the whole?
So we're not actually an incorporated. We are an LLC.
Okay.
S corp, tax status, all those things. If anybody actually cares to hear about that, but it is Mastry's Brewing Co. That's how we were founded as. And as of more recently, we've been redeveloping to be Mastry's because, again, as many of you know, we have branched outside of just the craft beer industry and now into craft spirits.
Right.
So as a brand, we are evolving as the products that we continue to develop, follow suit with what we do.
So the evolution of where we're at today and where we came from really just came from talking in the community, the business, community, the residents, and the need. We were historically like a sleepy town. We had recreation, we had youth sports at Davis Field, and it was all good because it was our kids. Growing up in the 60s, 70s, it was local kids. They all played here, and it really turned into more of a competitive thing and travel ball, and it kind of went outside of what Pinellas Park was. So they're just, trying to figure out what better fits the area and what better, helps the entire community as well as outside of our city. It's hard to think about that because you're spending money for your city, but then people could come here to do other stuff. So it just morphed from doing something with Davis Field and now what's going to be Davis Commons. Talking about AC systems and things introduced me to this guy named Matt Dahm, which has turned into this Mastry's thing. And it's like a 3-year evolution, really. It's kind of crazy how things all came together, and meeting Robert Cezanne and the CRA. And CRA is a redevelopment, taking somewhat of a blighted area and kind of redeveloping, investing money into it and making it to where
reinvigorate.
Yeah, just bring it back to its natural state, I guess. It was a blighted area. It's 100%. And if you look at it today, you wouldn't know that 20 years ago it was a pretty bad little area between drugs and a lot of homeless, a lot of vagrants and whatnot. And now it's an art district. It's the city center district. It's Park Station district. And hopefully soon here, a junction's coming into play, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But really, this whole plan came together over time, just in talking to the community and seeing what the community was looking for. A lot of people will tell you, hey, I grew up here, I want the park there. But then when you get outside of that one or two people and you start talking to people who don't reach out to the city that often, people who don't really care, they just want things to be better, you start getting this idea of, man, if we had something we could all use, not just so much the kids, and we do. We cater to kids, we cater to the seniors. It's a big part of what we do, and we still have that all around us. We have parks everywhere and senior centers and stuff. But doing something more of a destination where if I come here, I can do the park stuff, I can have my kids' stuff, I can do splash pad stuff, but at the same time, I can go over here to a brewing company, or I can go to a restaurant.
But downtown,
right.
We need an identity as to have a downtown.
Well, probably they say the two things people hate the worst is change and stagnation.
100%.
So, we for a lot of years, Pinellas Park kind of stayed that sleepy bedroom community. Right. And now there's extensive change going on. We have youth sports coming into Youth Park over there. It's going to create a youth sports tourism type of a situation. So we'll have that sports tourism coming into our city. Then we have a whole public safety complex going up right near our Davis Commons Park Station district. We have a teen center that's going to be recreated in that same district.
City Hall's relocating in the area.
City Hall's relocating in the Park Station district.
Not a new City Hall. We're redoing Park Station and making it more government friendly and putting City Hall in there. But something that you just made me think about kind of like is this little area, and we don't like change. And One thing that the city's been very good at is not raising taxes and raising fees. And by doing these types of things, you're able to not do that stuff. Of course, it's coming. I mean, let's face it, everything's going up, everything's getting more expensive. So we always talk about fees and where we're at. But we've done a really good job at not raising taxes. And by doing development and by doing things like business, reach out and talking to figure what do they need? What helps them? Helps us as a community. A big topic nobody wants to talk about is housing and apartments. The condos and apartments. I've lived here for 60 years. Nobody wants any new things. There's too much traffic. But the reality is that when you build a complex, it's full. I mean, right now there's nowhere to live. So when you're building them, they're full. By doing that, by going vertical, what are you doing? You're increasing taxes. You're increasing income to the city, and therefore keeping our stuff level. Now, infrastructure and everything's still going to be there. You'll still have to do all this money, but it does. It absolutely helps us, and the fact that we're able to do that.
Well, and you say downtown. A lot of people think downtown, like downtown St. Pete, like these big high-rise buildings,
No.
and I that's not that's not the Pinellas Park vision. But a downtown is these housing and condos, but maybe there's shops on the bottom.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
A very walkable district, an area, and I think some of the issue is you have these folks who've lived in Pinellas Park all their lives, or generationally they live here, but their parents and their grandparents lived here, and they're partial to Davis Field. They maybe played baseball on the field, football, Thunderbirds, So they have all these memories, but they what they don't have is the actual vision of what Davis Commons is going to be, which is going to be great. I mean, splash pads, playgrounds, an amphitheater,
Festival Street.
So there's so much that's going to be going on. It's going to allow the city to put on these micro events that are going to be in the area. Food trucks. You're going to, and then you have this development that we're going to compare to an Armature Works that Matt Dahm and his partner are creating with Park Junction. That we're going to go in depth and hear about that, in the show. But let's talk about the money. So we haven't raised fees. We haven't done these things. Our residents have enjoyed a very a very good ride.
Yes,
but we are
we're all. I mean, me and Dan both live here.
Yep. And now there's redevelopment, and there's a lot of excitement around that because there's a lot of good things coming into the city. So we've been fiscally responsible so far to be able to afford a lot of the stuff coming. So you want to
She's dancing on tricky words there, Dan. I know you.
Let's credit Dan with his
we have to edit
magic.
Everything Dan says because he's going to tell you the truth.
Well, Dan the money man. Let's give me some of your magic over here. How'd you accomplish all this?
Well, the CRA was originally formed back in 1996, somewhere around there.
96.
So I mean, basically, when you're talking about a CRA or community redevelopment, you're talking about a tax increment district, and what that means is basically you have a base year, and that base year is like a frozen year, and anything after any appreciation in taxable values from that point on, is new revenue for the district, and it is taxed in that district, and it can only be used in that district, both the city's share or the city's millage rate because it's in the city, but also the county also kicks in the county millage rate. So on the increase in taxable values from like 1996 till now, it continues, and that's what tax increment financing is all about. Now, as far as how you spend the money is concerned, we have state statutes and county ordinances as to how the money can be dispersed or spent on what types of things. So the city has to comply with that.
It's not as simple as just taking. It's not just money coming in and spending it. There's a lot of rules. I mean, there's a lot of things behind the scenes that require us to jump through some hoops to make things happen to redevelop the areas. That's why it's taken 20 plus years to get to this point.
Well, to be honest, the city really didn't know
Right.
what to spend the money on.
Right.
I mean, for years they were accumulating money and building money, and basically, according to state statute, they didn't want you accumulating money. They didn't want you hanging on to money. They didn't want you hanging on to money any more than a couple years for a couple years. They want if you had a tax increment financing district and you were raising money,
Right.
then you were expected to spend it.
Right.
And the city didn't know. The city couldn't reach a consensus.
They didn't have a vision.
They didn't have a vision.
Well,
they couldn't reach a consensus on how to
when you
spend
did,
it.
but when you did get the vision, you reached out to state and other local governments to see how can this be done, and you never got a straight answer.
Yeah.
It was always a tricky thing as to, you can't do it this way, you can't do it that way. So we
Yeah.
finally got to the point where we went straight to the horse's mouth and figured it out, and the attorneys got involved in, let's just spend it. Let's figure this out.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things that came up from the consultant was moving City Hall. And so there's been a misconception of we're building a new City Hall. And the truth is we're not building a new City Hall. What we're doing is utilizing Park Station, a building that we just haven't utilized for staff. So there's not a $60 million building, and there's actually
Remodel.
a renovation of Park Station. And some of the staff that we put in closets throughout the city will move into the City Hall, new chambers, ADA compliant, all the nice fancy, camera system and stuff like that. But there's
Council
a lot of people that
chambers.
still think that we're making this big Taj Mahal City Hall. And it's just not the case. We're just trying to utilize our current facilities a little bit better. So
City council will be there at the new Park Station too. Council
the new
chambers,
chambers.
council meetings will be there.
So I know where happy hour is going to be.
I wanted
Agreed.
to get to
I
that
think
'cause
so.
literally, once everything's said and done, you pulling off of 60th and Park Boulevard there's going to be a new signal on Park Boulevard, which again, pedestrian safety and all the things that come with that, with the fire station going in place. You're pulling in, and here to the right is Mastry's. City Hall is right here. The new police is there, and Davis Commons is here. It's literally everything's in play.
Can we sell advertising for the chairs in the council chamber? Like we could have Mastry's on one, and
You mean
whatever.
like at the hockey
Yeah.
rink?
Yeah.
Hockey rink?
Yeah.
I want to know what Mastry spirits are. You make your own moonshine?
So Mastry's Craft Spirits is the evolution of Mastry's Brewing. So ironically, my dad is allergic to beer. So almost 11 years ago, when I first had this idea of Mastry's, it originally started off with having a craft spirit program right off the bat. Funny enough, everybody thinks, Florida man, we're the Wild West of like the new Texas, and everything can happen in Florida. The craft distilling laws, though, were extremely, extremely difficult and binding back then, especially as a small business to be startup. In the state of Florida, you can't home distill. You can't, so as a brewery, as you're a home brewer, you can actually make up to a limited amount of gallons per year for self-consumption at home. What does that do? Well, back then there weren't schools in the state of Florida to help you get an education in craft beer. So it allowed you to brew beer, try things out, different recipes, get a home, education on making beer. And craft spirits, you could either do it professionally or not at all. So, and also back then there were limitations to how much product you could sell from the distillery, where it had to go. I don't know if anybody here had ever done a craft distillery tour back in 2015-16, but in the tour, if you wanted to buy a bottle, they would take your driver's license, they would put it into their records, and I believe it was a limit of 2 or 3 bottles per year per customer that you were able to buy. And also, again, the way the regulations were back there, you could not have a malt beverage brand also owning a craft distillery. And then, here locally, we have also the USF Brewing Arts Program. So Mastry's Brewing Co. and myself particularly are very involved. I am a USF alumnus, so go Bulls. So over in the program was first developed at USF St. Petersburg, and it was actually head up by, in partnership with Three Daughters Brewing, where they were utilizing their beer lab there for much of the educational component, and it has significantly grown. Breweries like Green Bench Brewing Co. is involved. The head brewer, John McCracken over at St. Pete Brewing Co. He's also a faculty member. I teach the business and brews side of things. And again, we continue to grow. And I'm sure even recently you guys might have even seen the news article that Joey Redner Jr., former owner of Cigar City, him and his wife put a $2.2 million donation to the USF program for the development of part of the hospitality and craft beer growth development with the new stadium. So there's a lot of things brewing with the Bulls right now. And again, with as much of our involvement is
no pun intended
with the USF Brewing Arts program, it is very much going to be a component of what we do here in the city of Pinellas Park, of bringing that aspect of education along to the programs that we have that are going to be involved at with Mastry's and at Park Junction.
So can you take us like on a visual tour of kind of Park Junction?
Absolutely. So Park Junction is really a culmination of everything that I said in my mind to what was missing in all these different areas and components of hospitality, entertainment, the craft beer industry, wine, foodies, you name it. And taking that a little bit further of going, the experiences that we currently today are looking for within our communities. So one, the great thing that people love about craft breweries is how family friendly they are. If you're not a family person and that's not a route in your life that you decide to go down, then that's perfectly fine. Often that's the least favorite thing at craft breweries, So breweries on a whole early on became like what I often compare to is like the British pub. The UK, they had the pub. What was the pub? The pub is short for the public house. This was a place that mom and dad would get together with other friends within their town and community and talk about what's going on. Taking that concept again and further growing it of how do we really best fit where our community is today. And that is multiple lifestyles, multiple preferences, multiple dining and eating options. And again, just down to where we've seen like craft beer. Craft beer is not just a craft beer world anymore. You see now we have craft spirits as Mastry's has grown into. Everybody's seen the seltzer world coming up, different, teas and other herbals, again, just alternative options for those who are looking for that non-alcoholic. And then we see the same thing with food where, the vegan, gluten-free, different dietary preferences. Then again, you go down to the entertainment side of it of, again, parents want somewhere their kids can play while parents be parents. And then some people want live music. Some people want a more privatized lounge where they can adults just be. And so when designing Park Junction, and again, this is long before we had the idea of calling this Park Junction, I really said to myself, how do we as a beverage manufacturer and community partner design something that can solve all that and create an experience to bring a community together in one parcel. So when you first enter Park Junction, as you're driving up to it, you'll see the 3-story market hall. You'll have the other 5,000 square foot building. The 5,000 square foot brewery building, it's 30 feet tall inside clearance. And again, we need that for all of our equipment and, the brewery tanks and so on. They're very tall. So we need that kind of headroom. But, so on the northeast corner, the northwest corner, you'll have the brewery hall. On the east corner, side, along 58th, you'll have the long market hall. And in the middle, you're going to have a small, I say small, it's going to be constructed out of 20-foot shipping containers, but an angled amphitheater facing into them. Alongside of that, you'll also have a small kids playground fenced in. And then you'll have, again, open up in front of that, you'll have tables with umbrellas and, sunshades, all providing that, that ambiance for people to be able to sit down and dine, watch their kids play, listen to music, enjoy the outdoors. And then approaching into the market hall, you'll have the indoor-outdoor, I like to call it the craft beverage bar, where you'll be able to, and again, it's an indoor-outdoor style bar. Kind of give you an example, throw some other fun names out there that I love their designs. Like at the OCC Roadhouse, how they got the one main bar in the middle that goes into the music area as well as into the inside. So something kind of very similar like that to be on the inside and outside, and that way it can be accessible from any direction. As you walk into Park Station, into the building itself, the ground floor is going to be very similar to that armature-esque type style where you're going to have a market hall available to merchants and food. In short, you won't really be restricted now to single menus.
How would that work? I mean, so do you sit down at a table? Do you order? Or do each one of you get up and go in a different direction?
The idea here is to, you can go up to all these different options and just get in line, go up to the register, order your thing, then whether they send you a text on your phone, hand you a pager, whatever their form of communication, tell you that your meal is ready, you go back, grab it, and then you have all your common areas, all your common area seating. We would love to get some more technology built into this, so that way you have a platform on an app. That way when you're in there, you can have access to all the different places. You order from there, and then it just texts you, and then you just, go up and grab your food. Some areas, and I appreciated seeing some of the other concepts of other market halls with similar like concepts across the country, where they do actually have also even like food runner options for like an added, 10, we'll call it like the percent of a tip increase. You can hit an option to have somebody run it to you, and basically the upcharge is what basically your tip fee would be. So that's ground level. Now, Park Junction, that building, the market hall, is actually 3 stories, but the second story is an open air mezzanine overlooking the ground level. So after you've ordered your beverage, your food, you can go ahead and take the staircase up to the second level mezzanine, where we will have some limited things going on up there. Maybe a self-serving beverage area. Who knows? Maybe we'll throw an indoor,
leave the options open.
Golf, simulator in there, whatever it may be. But the main idea for the second floor is mostly focused around gathering spaces, seating, tables, couches. You can eat up there. But the idea is, and again, when we were talking about earlier about residents, we're very limited in square footage. So we want to use much as the ground floor square feet for the mercantile area, the market. And then now we have almost 11,000 square feet on the second level that's more so dedicated for people to congregate. So that's the inside of the building for the first and second ground level. Now you come on up to the third floor rooftop. And this is going to be, think of any of your favorite, downtown, beachside rooftop bars. This area so far, we have pretty much decided that will be the 21 and up space. And because again, ground level, we want as family friendly as can be. Mom, dad, all that. But if, again, mom and dad want to go on a date night and they even themselves go like, yeah, I'd like to be in an area without the kids tonight. Same thing. If you want to have a cigar, you can go up to the third floor rooftop and go ahead and do that. Ground floor, I haven't had anybody in our group argue with me on this one, but I plan to make the entire ground level smoke free. We're creating different environments for different people's preferences. So if you want to enjoy a cocktail and a cigar, and that's your thing to do, you can do it on the property. Just head on up to the third floor. So again, just trying to create spaces that are very inviting to everybody. So again,
options though.
Options.
Yeah.
Options.
You were talking about the different drink concepts, and there's a couple that I've seen. Downtown St. Pete has a wine bar, and it's like a card system. Mm-hmm. So you get like a card, and then you put your card into what wine you want to drink, and you pick the ounces, and it gives you the wine, and then you drink that. If you want to pick a different wine, you do that, and then at the end of the day, they know how much you've drank, what wine you drank, and you cash out.
You pay by the ounce.
Yeah, pay by the ounce, and I think that would be a cool concept if you wanted to do like a tasting type thing for your beer. But the other thing too is I was in DC recently. I was staying in Arlington, Virginia, and in Arlington they have what's called beer halls. Mm-hmm. And it's a very interesting concept to me. My son, who's 24, loved it. I was a little hard for me, but you don't have servers. You have the QR code on the table. You click it, it brings you to an app. You order on the app. Someone delivers your food, and then they leave. They were packed. Every single one of these places were absolutely, packed. You know, the only disadvantage of that is, like, let's say you needed some more ketchup for your fries. You don't have that intimate server-customer relationship where they're coming to your table and checking.
What do you do then?
I don't really know.
You get up and go get it.
Yeah, you got to go ask somebody.
Self-serve.
Like, yeah, it's interesting.
Keep in your pocket.
But
you're never going to go anyway. So.
They are
he doesn't
packed.
leave the house. He's
This
is way over his head.
Interested to see the demographics.
It's enticing.
Just on the edge of your recliner, Dan can put a QR code. And
Matt's idea is it does give you a lot of options, but also if it doesn't work, there's changes that can happen with that.
Yeah,
so I see
you can make it whatever you
And
want.
that's it. Even with going back to the third floor, I mean, right now we're
leave the third floor alone. I mean, if you got cigars up there, we're good with that.
Well, on top of that, 'cause that's the outside area. You know, we have right now almost 2,500 square feet of space that we're talking about putting a full service food option.
Right.
You know, that way, if you want to sit down, have a table, you know, and actually have full service, you know, you would have that. Of course, you wouldn't have the full options of and variety of food downstairs, but, you know, again, it's giving you the options.
Right.
So, what made you choose Pinellas Park? Any specific reason? And tell me about that, but also tell me about your experience just dealing in general with Pinellas Park, with leadership, staff, you know, the whole process.
Is this where we have to pay him something? For
yeah,
this
I already gave him some money before it started.
Cut. So of course we're looking for an acre and a half, 5, 10 plus 15,000 square feet. And, you know, it was one of those same type of days of where here come 2018, I'm driving by Park Boulevard once again, going over the railroad track. And I see this little sign out front talking about the CRA, you know, looking for, I want to say it's like a 3x5 sign on the front of the building. And I remember.
How'd you even see it going down Park Boulevard, staying in your lane?
He was doing the speed line. He wasn't speeding.
Oh, okay.
Remember, I drive a Wrangler. I drive like a grandpa on that thing. Now, the other thing that's got a Hemi in it, but that doesn't have my logo on the side of it. So, but anyway, so there was a phone number on it. I called it. That's where I first spoke with Laura Canary, who was then, you know, with the CRA in City of Pinellas Park. And it was actually only about a week's time between then and the request for letter of intent deadline.
It was short.
So I quickly verbally shared our vision for the property. Ms. Canary loved it and said, this is exactly what I believe this community could use and something we were hoping to attract. And so in about a week's time, I got a friend of mine who's one of my architects, he's the architect actually for Park Junction. I was like, look, this is what I want to do. Can you quickly sketch this up? So he quickly threw me some renderings together for a concept, knocked out a couple pages worth of paragraphs to, you know, give the vision, the concept, what we were looking to do, presented it. And, you know, we were fortunate enough that the commission, you know, hands down voted in favor of ours. And that's really where the journey began on this one. So again, it was just another one of those right place, right time. And this is where I go back to again, since, you know, opening up in 2015, serving our first beer, always looking for a true larger home to anchor Mastry's. And this is where I don't know if I always believe that, like, you know, everything happens for a reason, but I do believe that patience is often key, and that if you're diligent and patient, you'll find the right direction, especially if you stick with something long enough. Yeah. And, you know, that's really where we are today, is that really the amount of diligence and patience that we've had to, you know, stay steadfast on the journey is ultimately what brought us to where we are.
Yeah. So we had, I mean, I want to say there were like 6 proposals, and everything from, you know, a nail salon to, you know, a lot of mom and pop stuff, but we were looking for this anchor. We were looking for this vision of something, I don't want to call it destination, but a destination, something for somebody to come to, you know, more so than
something unique.
Yeah.
Something unique, a gathering, community gathering spot.
Yeah. And Matt came in and sold it, and they liked it.
I think one of them was an auction house.
Yeah.
I think it was too.
And understand something. Council loves them all, right? They want to take care of everything. In fact, we have to hold them at bay sometimes because they want us to buy more properties to put people on them. It's kind of like, you know, what we should be doing. But they finally get the vision, they get what we're talking about, and having that little anchor of a destination kind of place and what it means to bringing people to Davis Commons area.
So from a economic development, economic growth standpoint, Bart, what's next? What's next for the city?
So I'll tell you, I'll stop you right there.
What do you guys got your eyes on?
Well, first of all, we've talked for a long time now. I mean, this is literally 2016, 2017, we started looking at these things. Of course, COVID was in the middle of this stuff, but we've been talking, and if you look down there's really nothing been done yet. And so it's time to get working. Money's in place, funding's there. It's time to get things going. He's getting really close. Park Station is actually literally going to start here soon. The police and fire safety campus is starting. Davis Commons everything's happening at the same time here. So the next steps, you mentioned Youth Park, which is in our CRA, but it's further down. It's behind the mall, back down there behind US 1970th Street. That is literally, if you've been out there recently, it doesn't look the same. They've scraped the whole place. It looks like it's huge.
It's wide open.
So there you have something where, again, we used to have just local, which was perfect for local because it was our kids, it was our tax base. But now you have people actually coming here from other places. Mm-hmm. I'll say they're coming from out of the state because that's what's happening. When you have tournament baseball, tournament lacrosse, and football, people are coming from, especially we had a winter time this a couple weeks ago, but people are coming from Michigan because it's so cold up there and snow. They're coming here to play ball. So. Sure. Having that destination thing, having this here, if I'm out there, everybody's on their phone, Googling, where can I go? Well, this is going to be a spot. You have a park next door for kids to play. You have his atmosphere where kids can play and have food and have a beverage, So next steps, I don't know. I think it's really just getting this thing off the floor. And getting
Maybe hotels.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, hospitality will be a driver for the sports tourism. Yeah. I mean, even like more entertainment, like maybe some escape rooms, different type activities for the whole family, or even fitness related.
Yeah, you're going to start seeing some of the buildings that have been, dilapidated for a while. Some of the older stuff, some of the older restaurants, maybe either redoing or maybe even selling. When you do things like this, it brings a value to the area. So you'll see, multiple places getting built, bought up, maybe a hotel going in place, other restaurants going in place.
I'd like to see in Davis Commons, it has a town center overlay that you could buy a residential house and create certain types of small businesses and actually have businesses in that neighborhood walkable. So it doesn't have to just be like Mastry's. It could be a barber shop. It could be
on the bottom, your house is on top.
Yeah, or wherever you want. And you can go 100 feet high with a town center.
Yeah, we've opened up a lot of options for the area.
So we were hoping that it just morphs on its own and just grows in that way. But
these are things that don't happen overnight. You have to have these conversations. You have to have to meet Matt and meet Robert Cezanne and folks that are going to be involved with this stuff and get this thing rolling. Look, past our time here, I mean, the four of us working here, this is going to continue going.
Of course.
This is literally the seed, and then it just starts growing.
Well, like you said, I think Mastry's, Park Junction, if you will, is the anchor, because that is going to be
100%.
the driver for folks, local folks, to jump on this bandwagon.
Well, truthfully, citizens and residents just expect city to do what they're doing, right?
Right.
We all talk. The city's doing this, they're building a new park. But until you see the business community come and play and you see that anchor, then now things are real. Now it's time to go. And just next door, I know it's still fairly early, but you've got the kind of a partnership with Robert and what a condo, apartment complex looks like and what it brings to that area.
Parking garage.
It's a big deal.
And then we'll have the park, and then I think it's just going to grow from there.
But tooting the horn of council, look, I've been here forever. I've been here my whole life. And having a vision, being able to see past what this looks like and being able to say, I'm okay with this. It's hard for council because they want to take care of the very small knit group that we hear from. We only hear on social media, we hear from maybe 1,000 people, and probably half of them aren't even in the city.
Right.
But there's the other 50,000 plus people that are here, plus the businesses that are here that don't actually, get to vote, that we're trying to listen to. And that's really what they've kind of opened up their eyes to and go, okay, it's needed. It's something we have to have here. So
for about 5 years on social media, we had one gentleman on every post who'd say, build a skate park.
I can't wait to answer him.
Well,
he's listening
and
now.
Well, he's not. He doesn't live in Pinellas Park. I want to say, I think he lives in like Tennessee or something.
He does.
But we're building a skate park. So, he finally got his wish. I don't know if he'll come and use it, but
He's actually a skateboarder.
Yeah, I think actually Keith shared that. I mentioned something to Keith one time. I was like, you know what would be cool? And he's like, hey, we just.
I've been waiting. It's been a topic we've always talked about, just the right spot. So the teen center's going in the corner of 60th and 78th Avenue, literally catty corner to your place. And behind there is it going to be a bad to the bone skate park.
But no, I mean, again, I just think this goes back into creating more things for our families, for our communities that truly embrace our again, getting out of this, like I'm at work and then I come home and then just this 9 to 5, driven type mentality. And again, with Park Junction, I mean, the idea is to really build an ultimate live, work, play environment where if you work here, you're actually confused if you're working or playing because the idea is I want to build something that you enjoy being at that much. But don't get me wrong, people. I mean, these are still going to be jobs, but something that somebody truly, not only is making, a very good livable, and better, range of pay to have a sustainable home life.
Right.
But because they have that, they can also further enjoy what they are doing at work because it's less about being hungry and more so now enjoying the fruits of your labor and your path of life. And again, that's so just this whole conversation here is, so when you asked earlier about like, how's the experience been? This is the type of conversation I've been hearing out of everybody in the community, especially at City Hall, at Public Works, in the commission, at planning and zoning. Everybody collectively in this community, in this city, in city employees, has this vision collectively together. Where, and again, as you mentioned, it's not going to be but collectively on a whole, I've actually never seen this much community driven together to not grow it, but evolve it and to keep its identity.
That's a good way to put it. It's an evolution.
And I think, again, that's what ultimately and my heart is what drives us to being like, we can't wait to be actively part of this community because it is so collaborative. It is so supportive. Everybody might not agree with each other at the end of the day, but then they step back and the words that Bart just said that you almost don't hear is, we've got, just call it the 50,000 in voters. And he said, but then we've got all the businesses that are non-voters that we're listening. Oh my gosh. You just said as a community, you're listening outside of just your voting residents, but those others who have invested money into your community, that they have a voice. Right. I can actively say that in many other communities where they have millions or billions of dollars brought in from businesses that they go, well, you're not a resident here. I don't care about your opinion.
I've heard it.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
So that is, again, when we look to, like I said, I might not be currently a City of Pinellas Park resident. I'm actively looking. But as far as investing, what I believe is the future of everything that I have pretty much as far as a business and for of my own family's future generations. This is where I'm putting the money in. This is where I'm investing it because I truly believe in this community and the output that's going to come from it.
There's a few people that are going to hear this that are going to go, he's right. I mean, look, we have people that have businesses here that spend more time here than they do I'll use Seminole at their home. They spend more time working in their businesses and putting their businesses together and more money in tax dollars, but they can't vote. And that's way bigger than us, but they're just as important as the voter.
And council
loves them.
Yeah, treats
100%
our businesses very good. Yep. Pinellas Park is absolutely a very, very friendly business community.
It's really, you have to really dig down and do some research. We have from the largest of Lockheed Martin to the smallest 2-person, candle shop. We have everything in between.
You can find it here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're big on manufacturing, but we're also big on retail and healthcare and medical.
But then you've got this corridor.
Yeah.
You've got 66th Street, US 19, 49th Street, and Park Boulevard, which is probably one of the heavier traveled corridors in the
about 50,000 cars a day.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I'm coming home let's say I'm coming over the bridge from Tampa and I live on the other side of, Park Boulevard, 66th Street. Mm-hmm. Well, I can stop here. There's something here. There's a place for my kids to play. There's a place for, me to go play. Maybe we're going to have pickleball. There's a skate park. I can also have a beer and I can have a sandwich.
Well, let's address that real quick because Pinellas Park is literally centrally located. So you have Pinellas County, you have to our north, you have Clearwater, to our south, you have St. Pete, to the west, you have the beaches, to the east, you have the airport. So we're literally in the middle of it all. And what's great about that is if I live in St. Pete and I want to do something, there's something that comes in Clearwater, but maybe closer to Tarpon, almost in the Palm Harbor area. Sometimes you're like, I just don't necessarily want to drive that far. Right. Or, coming the other way, if you're in Tarpon and it's in downtown St. Pete.
There's an option here.
I just don't really want to drive that far, but this is so in the middle that it really gives great options.
It does create a destination, but again, we're not trying to compete. We're not going to be St. Pete. We're not going to have the high rises. Right. We're not going to have the food down there. I mean, there's some really good stuff going on down there. It's not what it is. It's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to build this big next metropolitan community, but we need options, not just for those folks that are driving through, but the folks that are already here.
Yeah,
I mean, the folks that can walk and ride their bikes and maybe even their skateboards to this area. So
well, now I can tell you again. So Mastry's Brewing Co. is currently located in St. Pete Beach, and we will continue to have that.
A good location. That
location, we love it. Unfortunately, we've outgrown it. We don't have enough square footage to do all the to continue to grow all the products we make. We have a lot of people already from the city of Pinellas Park that come out there. They keep asking us like weekly. I'm hearing, when is this open? When are you breaking ground? I can't wait because you're literally a block away from me, and I can bring my golf cart to you versus having to drive across town. And
when are you breaking ground? When are we doing a groundbreaking?
I saw a mowing out there a few weeks ago.
Do you have
I do. I got a 22 horse John Deere just to mow that thing. So literally this week we did have a meeting with Public Works and Nick from Kelowna, TRA, and some other planning and zoning officials on the team to talk about stormwater. Lo and behold, stormwater is just honestly one of those conversations I did not believe up front that we were going to be as in depth. So again, when we're going from the original structure, there was about 4,000 or 5,000 square feet of structure on the property to now adding, basically, almost 4 times the amount of ground level non-pervious surfaces. We have to work on redirecting, that water, meeting Swift Mud Code and all that. And again, as a business owner, this is where my engineering and project management background really helps out a lot because I'm not your typical, business owner when it comes to developing a new business. So we've been working a lot with the City of Pinellas Park team, along with our civil, as well as some of the other contractors who have done the Namaste projects, pulled the civil engineer for the parking lot that's going over there by Park Station, just to pull everybody's data because we know there's a grander vision for the area. We know the stormwater is always going to be a conversation. So we've been working heavily to make sure that not only we're designing a solution for us, but a solution that makes sense for whatever future projects that are coming along. Because the last thing we want to do is solve ours. Then you have a bigger one for the next project, and then an even bigger one for the next one. Because by the time you get down to the end of it, you've got a great project, but now nowhere to put the water. Right. So again, something more community impactful that we're trying to stay ahead of.
And again, we work with all the businesses that come in here, and stormwater is always overlooked. We actually have developments that were coming in here and doing everything you wanted to do, and they hit stormwater and stopped. Because it just, people do not realize you can't put concrete on this entire place and not have a place for stormwater to go.
Of course,
you can't flood out the neighbors. You can't flood out the city's infrastructure and whatnot. So sometimes it's a make or break. But again, what you did with sitting down, those are things that I like to say that we do here that you don't get to see a lot of places. You don't get to sit with Nick Kelowna, who's in charge of the community development, and Dan, who's a stormwater guru at times, and Kyle. I mean, they all know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about, and you get those. Are at the same table to discuss options.
Yeah. I mean, and lo and behold, I mean, the truth of the matter is we're also right next to the railroad.
Right.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of power of things that you can and can't do along them.
They are king.
So we have to look for alternative methods, but let's just not beat around the bush. Anytime you talk about underground infrastructure, the dollar number just keeps going up. It just keeps going up. So what we originally intended for, $600,000, $800,000 of anticipated, that number has almost doubled.
1.6.
So of our entire, and it's publicly out there because it's been in articles that, and again, we have a grant that we got from the county to help go towards infrastructure and stuff like that because of the financial gap and findings. But I mean, of the, $11.5 million estimated budget, $1.5 million of that is just handling almost stormwater.
Oh, yeah, it's expensive.
So, and we can't start putting buildings.
And it's not sexy at all.
It is not. There's nothing sexy about
It's all underground.
Well, in stormwater, if it was as simple as us just being able to, make some common sense of it and doing things, but we have Big Brother. I mean, the state's involved, the DEP's involved, the Swift Mud's there. I mean, there's checks and balances through this,
and the good news is everybody's actually been very participative and informative and just going. And again, because actually at the end of this year we have another update to Florida State Code. We originally thought it was coming at December 31st of 2024, and now it's coming at December of 2025. So the good news is we had a little bit more time to try to get creative and look at alternate solutions. Because even right now, I'm still very concerned with the current one because the amount of output we're having towards the designated area that we already have that was built into the site. I'm like, if you ever need more water going that direction, you won't be able to put it there. And so we are looking at alternative options, but those alternative options are almost several hundred feet away. And by the time you're digging up ground and so on, and this is, so
restoring. I'm
just trying to think of, again, the long term, because again, we're not building a business that's going to be here, 3-5 years. We're talking about a multi-generational potential project, that's going to be there. When we first budgeted out this project back in 2018, it was only, $7.5-8 million max.
Oh, listen.
Where I was going with this is if he didn't have, the backing and the support from other folks and the mindset of being able to push this thing through, we wouldn't be talking right now. And that's what really separates. I mean, look, you guys have seen other projects on the boulevard here we've talked about that are supposed to be going in place and they're dead. They're dead in the water because people have a dream, but then the banks don't want to help. The funding's not there.
Right.
There's a lot of things that go into place. I want to make things so fast. I might be the worst there is. But with this, for some reason, I'm able to be, they're going to be methodical. All of our projects will be methodical. They take time. And I am still pushing, but the reality is it does take time. It's like a fine wine. You have to kind of create this thing and get it to where it's supposed to be.
Well, nothing's ever fast in government.
Well, but that sucks too. That really does stink that, it's so slow. But when council approves it 2 years ago, they want to see something tomorrow. And the reality is it just doesn't happen that way.
Right.
I will still tell you it's faster here than it is anywhere else. Just my personal
opinion.
Of
course.
But,
yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And, not to our Mastry's defense at all, but I mean, again, even at the rate that we're moving, I mean, I feel it's still very consistent.
Right.
We haven't had to step backwards on anything yet.
That's a fact.
We haven't had to step backwards on anything. We've continued to move forward, keep checking off the check boxes. And like I said, right now, other than solving a viable solution for stormwater and then getting our lending partner closed, we're pretty much ready to break ground on everything else. I mean, Park Junction website is up.
Yeah.
If anybody has,
what's the website?
It's parkjunction.com. So if anybody has also I know somebody's got a great boutique, whatever, a great food concept, coffee shop, whatever, and it's like that they're looking to expand, looking for another home. Maybe they're a food truck currently, and they're like, I've always wanted a brick and mortar. Tell them to hop on parkjunction.com and go to our eateries and merchant page and drop us a professional resume. Because right now we are going through the vetting process right now.
Nice.
And again, I'm going to tell you at the end of the day, and I keep joking about this, but it's genuinely true. We're going to push more paper on this project than we do dirt by the time we're done.
Right.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, the scary part of being, I don't want to say slow, but the scary part of taking time is between him and Robert, they're always coming up with new ideas and new things. So I mean, oh crap, here we go. We're doing this now, But it's good. It's going to turn out better. But these guys are nonstop. I mean, they're always thinking of the next option.
He was saying that they want to have a version of Shark Tank and have small businesses come in and present in front of them, and they'll say, sure, we'll like to bring you in if it fits within the group.
And we'll invest into them if they don't have the starting capital to get themselves going.
Oh,
that's pretty wild.
Wow.
I
can't do it on our podcast.
I can't say that across the board for all of it.
That's a whole other podcast.
But I mean that, and again, going back to the USF Brewing Arts program and getting involved, again, with the College of Hospitality. Again, I'm from College of Engineering. We got College of Business involved. Just so how multifaceted we are just on the collegiate level. I really am truly right now in discussion about building a a educational component into it, because again, we've got manufacturing, we've got business, we've got hospitality, we've got entertainment, marketing, all built into Park Junction. Wouldn't that be like a fantastic, like on the job training opportunity?
It's an incubator.
Yeah.
It is an incubator.
Absolutely.
And this is where when people ask me, like, so what's your goal? What's your grand vision? This feels big, but to me, like, the sky's the limit. It's endless. It can always evolve and mold into what's next.
Well, I mean, to be successful, I think you have to have that attitude. I mean,
where do you get your hops?
Go big or go home. A
little bit of everywhere. Actually, right now, we just got in a fresh batch from the University IFAS program. So the University of Florida's out in Waimama, they've got a big growery out there where they do everything from fruits and vegetables, and they actually own.
Are you thinking ag farm?
Yeah. They have over 2 acres.
They have an ag farm.
They have over 2. So they have right now in the state of Florida, there's only a total of 5 acres dedicated to growing hops, and the University of Florida has tons of funding. Well, I'm going to back this up because they'll shoot me for this. But they have
ag farm.
They have funding and have been working to grow and develop a sustainability business model for hops in Florida. So right now we got 5 pounds of fresh Florida grown hops, and they've recently started pelletizing them. So before we were working with whole leaf cone hops, this time we got our first batch of pelletized hops. So we're going to be making a beer with it in the next couple of weeks. But yes, and right now, as many of you all are aware because of the programs, the Fresh from Florida programs are seriously, all pun intended, untapped, and offer a lot of potential for communities. But again, back to beer, you have to use a certain percentage of your overall product to be able to use the Fresh from Florida logo. Most of your hops are grown in the Midwest to New Zealand to, and so on. Most of all your grain, again, out of Florida. We actually recently, working with Riverbend Malt Co., which is not in Florida, but they actually have a wheat and malt field, and also does corn that provides a lot of product to the distillers and so on. And so they've begun working in pulling out more and more farmers out of the state of Florida to get in these other products. So I mean, I'm very excited about the day.
I mean, we're organic. We have our own chickens, our own cows. I mean, we could literally.
But on top of that, with any of your farm, if you have any programs that are around, whether it be vegetables or, like you said, chicken and poultry, again, we're going to have kitchens here. I would love to have a local sustainable, food concept involved with it. And we talked about it, but again,
we can do this.
As I've expressed, it gets difficult unless you have the right partners, because when you go trying to pull that much local product, like I said, in beer, you can't find that much local hops to so I can't wait for the day that I can start embracing more and putting the Fresh from Florida logo on a lot of the products that we have. Because again, for me, especially being a parent, and we're constantly looking at, like, what are we feeding our kids and things and so on. And and now absolutely. That, especially with so many allergens and so on,
this is what our ag farm's for.
Would love that and entirely embrace that and be like, just
we literally had
let's do this.
We had a bunch of kids from one of our local schools out there, and they're eating chicken nuggets, and the chickens are literally walking in between them. We had a turkey named Fred that walked in between, and then we had to explain to them, this is the reality. This is where, and that's something people don't understand anymore, especially in this area. It's concrete from wall to wall. So to have a farm and know where your food's coming from and what your food's all about, that's a big deal.
You should go check it out.
It's taboo though, because a lot of people go, but until you realize, the cages that chickens are living in and how they're actually slaughtered and everything, this is pretty, this is how it really should be. And having that farm to table thing, kill it.
And there are a bunch of additional farms in the area that, if you worked out a deal for land and growing, they'd probably work with you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm down.
It just keeps growing.
Yeah.
Well, Matt,
wrap it up.
We really appreciate you coming on for our maiden voyage podcast.
Podcast sucks. Lana Beck.
www. No, I think it's going to be successful. We had a lot of good conversation here. Matt, your vision is great. We're really excited for this project to get done and be in Pinellas Park. We're glad we're hosting such a great project, and we're growing every day. Bart, between you, council, on our staff. I mean, we have a really good vision. We all work together real well. Dan.
Money bags.
Somebody's got
to keep looking
We're
at the checkbook.
glad you don't always tell us no.
Before this project started, Dan had hair.
A lot of hair.
Mine was darker.
I think we've all agreed from this.
Well, it's been great, and I hope we get to do another one of these.
Thanks, Matt, for coming out and helping us.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.